The committee will come to order. Good morning, and thank you all for joining today's hearing entitled "The Danger China Poses to American Agriculture." After brief opening remarks, members will receive testimony from our witnesses today, and then the hearing will be open to questions. Traditionally, we don't do questions with our panels of our colleagues. I know Governor Noem was interested in taking a few questions. Time-wise, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do 5 minutes, a full 5-minute round with the governor. And the second panel will be 5 minutes questions as normal. So good morning, and thanks to all for being here for a timely and necessary conversation about threats China poses to American agriculture. The People's Republic of China, governed by the Chinese Communist Party, which is where this threat comes from. It doesn't come from individuals. This is imposed basically where we're looking at links to the Chinese Communist Party, has gone out of its way to reduce its reliance on American agriculture, all while aggressively pursuing tactics that threaten our nation's ability to feed itself. Now, these threats are multifaceted, strategic, incendiary, and require a coordinated and a proactive response. These last few years have seen China steal U.S. intellectual property, hack critical cybersecurity and related infrastructure, weaponize agricultural trade, and acquire American farmland at an alarming rate. Each of these disrupt our national security, our rural communities, and our resiliency. Now, China has long used its legal and regulatory system to steal intellectual property, and we have seen this in everything from semiconductors to seeds. Not to mention the scale and the sophistication by which China can manipulate critical infrastructure has exposed vulnerabilities in American technologies. Now, this interference has ranged from data breaches and theft of agricultural research to ramping up disruptions of irrigation and transportation systems. In 2022, Chairman Comer and I, with more than 125 of our Republican colleagues, asked the Government Accountability Office to evaluate foreign investments in U.S. farmland and its impact on national security, trade, and food security. As many of you know, in 2021, the Department of Agriculture estimated that foreign investments in U.S. agriculture land grew to nearly 40 million acres. A few months ago, we received the final report, which showed Congress where gaps exist in our reporting framework and how better and more timely coordination between federal agencies could help increase visibility into potential national security risks related to foreign investment. Congress took a natural first step with the recent passage of the Consolidated Appropriations Act, where the bill addressed foreign ownership of land by improving the tracking system of it. The fact China imports almost as much food as the U.S. exports to the whole world makes this conversation more difficult. In recent years, the U.S. has seen record export values to China for soybeans, corn, beef, chicken meat, tree nuts, and sorghum, all of which are major contributors to our domestic farm economy, underscoring the importance of expanded market access and market diversity elsewhere. So, how do we strike the balance, protecting our producers and consumers in every piece of agriculture value chain while keeping pace with China's needs? How do we reduce our reliance on one country without undermining the necessity of a strong export market? How do we think smartly about policies that mitigate threats while protecting our best assets? Today's witnesses come to the table with lived experience and decades of knowledge on China and these very questions. Now, I welcome each of you and look forward to the discussion. With that, I now like to welcome the distinguished ranking member, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Scott, for any opening remarks he would like to make.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of today's hearing is to discuss the influence that China has on American agriculture. But unfortunately, some of the rhetoric surrounding this topic may derail us from tackling the real issues at hand and may contribute, hopefully not, but may contribute to violence against Asian Americans. And I want all Americans to know that we on the Agriculture Committee condemn all bigotry, including race-motivated threats and acts of violence. This is about agriculture policy, not people policy. I also want us to keep in mind that China is an important trading partner to the United States, and we need a thorough and policy-heavy conversation so that we can help the American farmers and our agricultural system navigate this difficult, challenging, and somewhat thorny issue. I hope everyone here today will engage in a serious, fact-minded, fact-based conversation and avoid fear-mongering and alarmism. Though I'm told that this isn't the topic of this hearing, I am also pleased that the recently enacted Agriculture Appropriations Bill will help USDA update its outdated system of tracking foreign agricultural land ownership in the United States of America. And if we are going to have a serious discussion about foreign influence on American agriculture, we must remember that China is our largest trade partner, accounting for $33.7 billion in U.S. agricultural exports just last fiscal year alone. American farmers are the most efficient and productive, and because of this, we produce far more than we Americans can consume. My colleagues will often note that we are in an agricultural trade deficit right now. And I'm here to tell you that alienating our trade partners will only deepen that deficit. American farmers need large markets to export their products. And when those markets are lost, who does it harm? Our farmers. And then the American people. We saw the implications of this when the Trump administration started a trade war with China, creating chaos and undermining markets for our American farmers. And since the trade war shut American farmers out of China, guess what? Brazilian farmers have filled that gap, increasing their exports to China as our market share decreased. Now Trump is calling for a 60% tariff on all Chinese goods. This would have drastic impacts on American agricultural production. It would increase costs for consumers and would almost certainly lead to devastating retaliatory tariffs placed on the U.S. agriculture exports. So I think it's fair to think that the U.S., being so dependent on a single export market, who is also a strategic competitor, raises and poses a risk for our American farmers. And one way that we can address this concern is to expand trade in existing markets while we open new markets. And I continue to support increasing the market access program. That's the way to go. And foreign market development program in the Farm Bill. And I believe that this new trade deal are critical for our American agriculture. However, there are many places where I am very critical of the Chinese government. The theft of seed and other agriculture technology is highly concerning to me and continues to be a problem. Market distortion through domestic price support programs and ignoring WTO decisions hinders access, and creates an uneven playing field for U.S. farmers. And I also remain highly critical of any foreign government seeking to buy American land near essential intelligence or our military installations. This is now a major national security. We must protect our national security interests. This is a national security issue of soaring magnitude to this nation. We got to protect our farmland and not get it in the hands of foreign interests, particularly China. I look forward to hearing from our witness chairman today and coming out of this hearing with an improved understanding of our relationship with China and how we can work together to protect America's agriculture interests. Thank you.
I thank the gentleman. The chair would request other members submit their opening statements for the record, so our witnesses may begin their testimony to ensure that there is ample time for questions. Please recognize our colleague, the gentleman from South Dakota, Mr. Dusty Johnson, to introduce our first witness today.
You know, Mr. Chairman, governing a nation should be a team sport. Unfortunately, there are a lot of free agents in politics, people who don't understand the value of shared vision and shared efforts. Luckily, our speaker this morning, my friend, my governor, she knows how to work together. She understands that we get a lot more done when the federal government and the state governments are trying to find a path forward together. I would tell you, I don't think there's a month that goes by that she isn't showing the kind of leadership necessary to be able to have our team work with her team, whether it's protecting American farmland from the Chinese Communist Party, getting TikTok off government devices, making sure that her state pension program has the flexibility to divest from CCP influences, making sure that the Farm Bill priorities are right, managing the Black Hills National Forest in an appropriate way, protecting Mount Rushmore. I could go on for an hour, sir, and I know you don't want me to, of the ways that our speaker and I have been able to work together. And so I just got to tell you, I'm honored to be able to have a real South Dakotan, a real leader, and a real partner come on back to the Ag Committee and share some wisdom with us. Mr. Chairman, the governor of the great state of South Dakota, Kristi Noem.
I thank the gentleman and welcome Governor Noem. Our second witness is our esteemed colleague, the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Mike Gallagher, who is the chairman of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. And Congressman, thanks for joining us. Hopefully our third witness today, and I know he has some scheduling conflicts initially here, so we're hoping he'll be able to join us in time to offer his perspective, is another respected colleague of mine, of ours, somebody I work with on many issues, including career and technical education. The gentleman from Illinois, Mr. Raja Krishnamurthy, who is the ranking member of the Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party. Thank you to all our witnesses for joining us today. We will now proceed to your testimony. You each have 5 minutes. The timer is in front of you. We'll count down to 0, at which time your time has expired. Governor Noem, please begin when you're ready.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's an honor to be with all of you today, and thank you, Congressman, for that very kind introduction. You are a wonderful friend, and you're doing such a great job, maybe because you stole half my staff and kept them when I left the Hill. No, but you're a wonderful representative for South Dakota. Thank you for caring so passionately for all of our people. You know, Chairman Thompson, I also have the honor of having one of my former chairmen on this committee sit in front of me today. Chairman Lucas was my chairman as I served here in the House of Representatives and had the chance to do 2 farm bills, but serving under his leadership on this committee was a special honor for me, and I loved being a member of his team as we put together farm policy which I always refer to as food policy for the United States of America. So it's wonderful to see you again, Chairman Lucas, and I look forward to continuing to receive your advice and wisdom over the years. Ranking Member Scott and members of the committee, thank you so much for letting me be here with you today to discuss this topic. As a former member of this committee, I know it very well, that each day that you protect not only our nation's food supply, but you also are stewards of our land. And it is a treasure for us to be able to do that each and every day. I come before you today and sit as the 33rd governor of South Dakota. My home state is known for its gorgeous Black Hills, its rolling plains, but also iconic Mount Rushmore. We have a lot to be proud of, and if you haven't come to visit us, you probably should, because it is beautiful. Agriculture is our #1 industry in our state, but tourism is our second largest industry. It's incredibly important to our people that our land stay in good shape and we continue to produce. This year is special to me because this is the 30th year that I have worked on agriculture policy. I have spent my lifetime working on policy, not just being a farmer and a rancher and raising my family on the land, but also being involved in meetings. At just the age of 22, my dad was killed in an accident on our family farm, and I got angry when I found out how our family was going to be hit tragically by the death tax. I started showing up at meetings to talk about policy and how it impacted small farms. At that time, the U.S. Senate Majority Leader was Tom Daschle, who was a Democrat. And I ended up him appointing me to serve on the Farm Service Agency State Committee, which is the committee that oversees all the federal farm programs in the state of South Dakota. I did that for many years as a young wife and mother, and also as a farmer and rancher running a large operation in our state. So I was heavily involved in the implementation of federal farm programs in our state, making sure they worked for all of our ranchers there and that they were as flexible as possible to give them the freedom to choose how they ran their farms and to do it very well. I also served on many different commissions and task forces out here in Washington, D.C. during those years to help disadvantaged farmers, people that were in tough situations and different critical situations. And as the general manager of our business operations, I ran our farm for many decades. I was first elected to our state legislature in 2006 and became the assistant majority leader in the House. While there, I rewrote our agriculture property tax system. I ended up running for Congress, was elected, served on this committee, and we worked on 2 farm bills while I served on this committee, also served on natural resources, on the Armed Services Committee, Education and Workforce Committee, and then ended on Ways and Means Committee when we did tax reform, and was very proud to see that signed into law. In 2018, when I ran for governor in our state, and I won and then was reelected again last year, or in 2022, and I'm in my second term now. I tell you all of this because I think it's important for you to know that my heart is with the land and it is with our people, but when it comes to policy, that I know what I'm talking about. And I know it because I live it. Today, I focus of this committee is the danger that China poses to American agriculture. Over the years, I have witnessed this hostile communist country work to systematically take over our food supply chain. They have decades ago started buying our fertilizer companies, controlling our ability to access fertilizer, bring it into the United States. Then I watched them buy up our chemical companies as I worked on implementation of programs and policies at our state level and at the federal level. I watched us as we sold citizenship to Chinese communist members of the Communist Party for investment into our processing systems. And now most of our processing facilities are owned by the Communist Party or Chinese government. Now they are coming for our land. And when they buy up our land, they will complete their chain of control of our food supply. Between 2010 and 2020, the Chinese Communist Party's holdings of ag land increased by 5,300%. Reports now show that China owns about 384,000 acres of U.S. ag land, valued at over $2 billion. This should be alarming to all of us. USDA admits that this may not even account for all of the land that they own because there's very little track of foreign interests that are involved in these large transactions. In fact, there's very little reporting that happens at the state or the federal level, and little consequences for allowing countries who hate us from owning our land. Just this past summer, we had members of the Communist Party contact our state government and want to come and visit to our processing facilities, see our farms, and visit South Dakota. We declined all of those meetings, but just within days we received a phone call from the State Department telling us that those were Chinese spies. They were there to steal our intellectual property, to steal our genetics, and wanted to debrief us if we had met with them. Thank God we did not. We were told they were there to help improve our trade relations, that they were there to improve our business and our exports, and instead they were there to steal from the United States of America. So the threat is very real to us every single day, what China is doing, and they have a 1,000-year plan to become the world dominating power in the world, and the only thing standing in their way is America. Just this past summer, it was very clear to me when those Chinese spies were in our state that China wants to control us, and they want to do that by controlling our food supply. The Chinese Communist Party is not our friend. They're not our partner, and they're not our ally. They're our enemy. And they're a rapidly expanding national security threat that can't be ignored. So let me be clear. They are buying up our entire food supply chain, and when America can't feed itself and we rely on other members of another country to feed us, it becomes a national security issue. The country that feeds us will control us. And let me remind you why we do a farm bill every year. And I'm well aware that you have a priority to get that done, and I'm looking forward to getting a farm bill done, because that is the safety net for our farmers out there. In the past, the farm bill has always been a bipartisan issue, and it should continue to be a bipartisan issue. I had the opportunity to work on 2 of them, and it is simply a safety net for our farmers. It is important, and America decided years ago that we needed to have a farm bill to ensure that every family in this country had a safe and had an affordable food supply, that they had the ability to go to a grocery store and to put food on the table for their families, and that if a farmer had a good year, he could pay his bills, but if he had a bad year, he could lose everything. And we didn't want to have a drought or a flood or something happen that caused us to lose all of our small family farms and allow us to lose the ability to feed ourselves. Every family in this country recognizes the importance of a farm bill. I know you do too, and I'm looking forward to you getting one completed to make sure that we continue to feed ourselves in this country. The farm bill should be designed to help farmers and not environmental extremists. I hope that you'll continue to focus on making sure that we are working as a conservationist myself. I'm committed to protecting the abundance of our natural resources in my state, but so-called climate-smart agriculture dictated by the Biden administration does not help farmers. And it does not help us put food on the table or conserve our natural resources. We want wildlife habitat solutions that meets the needs of the people and the states that best serve this country and our ability to feed ourselves and protect ourselves. The Farm Bill manages risk, and it is a safety net, and I hope that you can get that done. Recent media reports show that the largest Chinese holder of American ag land is shipping food and medical supplies to China to be stockpiled by the Chinese military. We all saw when China purchased land in North Dakota that they claimed was for a corn processing plant, that there wasn't going to be enough corn in that area to supply that plant, and that it was just miles from a military installation. They were purchasing that land on purpose for national security reasons, and that is why I've made it a priority in my state to ensure that that doesn't happen on my watch. In South Dakota, we worked for 2 years to make sure that we had a bill in place that would make sure we know who's buying our land and that it wasn't going to be from a country that hated us. China would never allow us to go to their country and buy land in their country. They don't even allow their own people to buy their land. There's no reason we should allow them to come into our country and buy our land, and especially not close to our military installations. South Dakota is the home to Ellsworth Air Force Base. It's the home of the B-1 bomber that has protected this country for the last 50 years. It's also home to the MQ-9 Reaper drones, which are in operation protecting us as well. But it will be the first home of the B-21s, which will be the bombing platform that will protect this country for the next 50 years. And it's incredibly important that we stop China and that we make sure other evil foreign governments don't come in and have the opportunity to buy up land next to these military installations. When we talk about food policy, please talk about it from a national security standpoint. It is important that we grow our own food, that we produce it here, and that we're doing it in a way that protects the United States of America. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I will yield back.
Very good. Thank you.